You know how sometimes you say stuff just to make a point, and then it turns into this whole giant thing that you didn't even see coming. Yeah, that was my life for a while there. It was all just a mess. Really, I'm Riley, by the way. I'm 32, and honestly, looking back, I still don't even know how it all got so out of hand. It started with Mark, my ex. Or, well, my ex-husband. I guess it feels weird even saying that now. We were together for ages, practically since high school. And for most of it, it was fine. Normal. You know, he was a sweet guy. Really, a little too nice sometimes, if you ask me. Always trying to avoid a fight. Always saying yes to everything. Even when you could tell he didn't really want to. That whole people pleaser thing, that was him. It could be annoying, especially when I needed him to actually, stand up for something. Like, for me, we had our son, Leo, and that changed everything. Of course, for a while, it was like we were playing house, doing all the baby stuff, figuring it out. Mark was all about being the provider. The big, strong dad, he'd come home from his job, all tired, but still trying to be super involved. He was that old school type, thought it was his job to just bring in the money, make sure we had a roof over our heads, which, fine. But sometimes it was like he forgot I existed. To just me. Riley, not just mom. The fight started small. Like, about money? He always expected me to just handle everything on my end, even though his income was way bigger. He'd be like, oh, just put it on your card. We'll figure it out later. And then later, it was always a fight to get him to actually pay me back. Or he'd complain about what I was spending, even though it was on stuff for Leo or for the house. And meanwhile, I'm trying to keep my own little nest egg separate, just in case. For a rainy day, a girl's got to have her own thing, right? Then there was the whole my time thing. He was always trying to get me to do stuff with his friends or go to his family's, and I'd be like, can't we just chill? I'm exhausted. But if I wanted to do something with my girls or just have a night to myself, suddenly it was a big deal. Like I was abandoning him or something. It was always a double standard. Always. He demanded to know where I was, what I was doing, who I was with. But if I asked him, he'd get all huffy and defensive. Like, why do you need to know? Don't you trust me? Please? I guess the big turning point, the real slide, happened when Leo started getting a bit older, like 6 or 7. He was a sweet kid. Always. But sometimes he'd get so frustrated, and Mark just didn't know how to handle it. He'd just shut down. Like, I'm tired, Riley. You deal with it. And I'd be left with this screaming kid, and no help. It made me so mad. Sometimes I'd try to talk to Mark about it, about how he was checked out, how he was emotionally distant, but he'd just nod his head and then do the exact same thing next week. It was like talking to a brick wall. He was just burnout. I guess, used to try, but just gave up. Emotionally numb. Sometimes, one time, I remember we were fighting about something dumb. I don't even remember what. And I was trying to explain something to him, really trying to get through, and he just kept saying, "You're being dramatic? Riley, it's not that serious." Like my feelings didn't even matter. My blood was boiling, but I just smiled, real sweet-like, and said, "Okay, Mark, whatever you say." Between us, I wanted to scream. That's when I'd usually get quiet, and he'd think he won, but really, I was just shutting down, figuring out my next move, using my tears, or just going totally silent to avoid having to actually address the problem. It worked every time. He'd get all flustered and apologize eventually. It felt like I was always the one holding everything together, always the one making decisions, always the one figuring things out. Mark was just there. He had his little hobbies, his video games, whatever, and I'd try to get him to do stuff with me, or with us as a family. But if it didn't include him directly, he wasn't interested. I'd even try to get him to read some of those self-help books with me, about growth and stuff, but he'd just roll his eyes. Growth mindset he was not. So, one night, after a particularly bad fight, I think it was about him not wanting to go to my cousin's wedding, because he said he was too tired. Even though I'd been planning it for months, I was just fed up. Completely. I was talking to my friend, Sarah, on the phone, just venting, and I said it. He's so controlling. Sarah, he's so aggressive. And then, because I was feeling extra dramatic, I added, sometimes I even feel like he's gonna, and I didn't even have to finish the sentence. Sarah gasped. It was just words. Just to get sympathy? I mean, Mark had never, ever laid a hand on me. He was too much of a people pleaser for that. But he could be intimidating, like when he'd get that look in his eye, or when he'd raise his voice. It felt violent in a way, even if it wasn't physical, and I needed a reason. A good reason. Not just I'm tired of him being boring or he never does what I want. That sounds petty. But he's violent. That gets people on your side. Immediately. The problem was, Sarah being Sarah, she told her friend, who told her friend, and before I knew it, people were looking at Mark differently, giving him wide berths, asking me if I was okay. It was exactly what I wanted. I got all this sympathy, all this attention. It was great. I'd post little cryptic things on Facebook. Like, sometimes the strongest people smile through the most pain. And everyone would jump in with, "Are you okay? Sweetie? What's going on?" And I'd just reply with a sad face emoji. It was perfect. I didn't have to say anything specific. But everyone got the message. Validation seeking. Maybe, but it worked. Mark, bless his heart, had no idea. He just kept trying to be the good guy, apologizing for things I'd made up in my head, trying to make things better. He'd buy me flowers, make dinner, try to plan dates. And I'd just accept it all, letting him think he was making progress. But in my head, I was already checking out. I was already planning my escape. I'd tell him I loved him. I'd hug him. I'd even let him get close. But inside, I was already gone. Hot and cold behavior? I guess you could call it. 1 minute, I was all over him. The next, I was like ice. I'd use affection as a reward. Or a punishment. If he did something I liked, he got a bit of me. If he messed up, nothing. I even started saying things to Leo. Little things. Like Daddy's temper makes me sad sometimes. Or Daddy can be a bit scary when he's mad. Just little seeds. Just planting ideas. I didn't think anything of it at the time. I was just trying to build my case. Make sure Leo was on my side when the time came. I wanted him to see Mark the way I did. Or the way I said I did. The truth is, Mark never raised his voice at Leo. Never even got stern with him. Really, he was always so gentle. That was his problem. Honestly, too gentle. But that didn't stop me from twisting things. If Leo got upset about something, I'd be like, "See, Daddy makes you feel like that." And Leo, being a kid, he'd just nod along. Then came the day I finally decided to leave. It wasn't a big blow up or anything. I just woke up and thought, I can't do this anymore. I was tired of pretending. Tired of him. So I packed a bag, not a big duffel bag or anything, just a small one with my essentials. I called my mom and told her I needed to stay with her for a bit. And when Mark got home from work, I just told him, "I'm leaving. Mark, I can't be here anymore. It's not healthy for me." Or for Leo, he looked defeated, like someone had punched him in the gut. He tried to talk, to argue, to convince me to stay, but I just shut him down. I need space. Mark, this is for the best. And then, the ultimate weapon. It's for Leo. He went quiet after that. He always did. When I brought Leo into it, I knew that it was my go-to, threaten to leave, and if that didn't work, threaten to take Leo, relationship hostage taker. I guess that makes me, whatever, it got the job done. We went through the whole divorce thing. It was messy. Obviously, he fought for custody, which was just ridiculous. I mean, I'm his mother. Who else would Leo go with? But he kept bringing up my instability and how I was manipulative. Like, "Hello, look who's talking." I had to pull out all the stops. I had my friends, the ones who heard my stories, testify for me. They swore they'd seen Mark act intimidating and aggressive. It was easy. They believed me. Everyone did. The lie just grew. I kept telling everyone that Mark had this terrible temper, that he was always yelling, always slamming things around. I even said he had broken things in the house during arguments, which he hadn't, not once. But it sounded good. It sounded believable. I needed to create a narrative, a really strong one, so I could get what I wanted, full custody. The house, the alimony, the whole 9 yards. I had to make him look bad. So I did history rewriter. Definitely, I changed the narrative of our entire past, just to fit my story. And it worked. I got almost everything. Mark got visitation, of course, but I made sure it was always a hassle. Always a reason why Leo couldn't go, or why he had to come back early. He was trying to be involved, to be a good dad, but I just made it hard. I'd tell Leo he was tired, or he had homework, or he had a fever. Even if he didn't, anything to minimize Mark's effort and connection with Leo. Then things started getting weird with Leo. He was like 10 now, and he started having these outbursts. Not little kid tantrums, but real rages. He'd get upset. And instead of just crying or stomping his feet, he'd start punching the walls or throwing things. And then he'd look at me and his eyes would be filled with so much something. Anger, I guess. And he'd say, "This is your fault, Mom. You made Daddy mad. You made him violent." My stomach dropped the first time he said it. Like, what? Me? No. It was Mark. It was always Mark. I tried to tell him. No. Sweetie? Daddy was like that. He always had a temper. I was just trying to protect you. But Leo would just stare at me. That same angry look, like he didn't believe me. He'd just say, "No, he wasn't. You said he was, but he wasn't. You made it up." It was like a punch to the gut. This kid, my kid, who I'd been trying to protect, was blaming me for what? For telling the truth, for trying to make things better for us. It made no sense, and he kept doing it. Every time he had one of these fits, he'd punch the wall or throw something, and then he'd scream that it was my fault, that I had ruined everything. He was acting out at school too, getting into fights, talking back to teachers. And the school counselor called me in. She was all calm and understanding, asking about the home situation, if there had been any changes. And I, of course, told her the whole story about Mark's violence and how I had to leave to protect Leo. And she just listened, nodding. But then she said something that made my blood run cold, something that stuck with me. She said, "Sometimes children internalize the narratives they hear, especially about a parent. If a child is told a parent is violent, even if they don't witness it, they can act out that perceived violence." I just nodded politely, but inside, I was like, what the heck is she talking about? It wasn't my fault. It was Mark's, always. He was the one who was supposed to be the stable one, the calm one. Why was Leo acting like this? It was like she was trying to make me feel bad. What a bitch. Leo just kept getting worse. He started withdrawing from his friends, spending all his time in his room, playing video games. He barely talked to me anymore, except to snap at me or blame me for something. And the punching, it escalated. He wasn't just punching walls anymore. He punched doors. He punched the kitchen counter. He even broke his own hand once, hitting his bedroom door. It was terrifying. And every single time, he'd look at me with those cold, angry eyes and say, "It's because of you. Mom, you did this." I tried everything. I tried to talk to him, to cuddle him, to bribe him with new toys. Nothing worked. He just kept pushing me away. And the deeper he got into this angry, blaming phase, the more I started to realize this wasn't good. This wasn't what I wanted. I just wanted to be happy, to be free. And now I had this angry, volatile kid who hated me. It wasn't fair. One day, Mark called me. He usually just texted or sent emails through his lawyer. But this time, he called. And his voice was different. Not angry, not sad, just flat. He said Leo had been acting out during their visitation, too. And he said Leo had told him what I had been saying about his violence. And Mark just said, "Riley, I never hit you. I never hurt you. Why did you say that?" And I just stammered, trying to come up with an excuse. I was upset. "Mark, you were being difficult." I needed to explain why I left. And he just said, "You destroyed our family, Riley. You destroyed me, and now you're destroying our son." And he hung up. That's when it hit me. Not like a revelation, not like I suddenly understood everything. More like a cold, hard slap in the face. Leo's anger, his blaming me, Mark's flat voice, it was all connected. I had said those things to get what I wanted. To make Mark the bad guy, to get custody, to get the house. And it had worked. I had gotten everything, but now my son, my own flesh and blood, was a broken, angry kid who blamed me for everything. And Mark, the too nice guy, the people pleaser, was just gone. Checked out for good? It wasn't even a moment of regret. Not really. More like, damn, this really blew up in my face. I didn't regret leaving Mark. I didn't regret wanting what I wanted. I regretted that it turned out this way with Leo. This wasn't the plan. The plan was for me to be happy, for Leo to be happy, for everyone to just move on. Leo got worse and worse. The school finally said he needed professional help, like serious help. And when we went to the therapist, Leo just unleashed on me. He told the therapist everything. Everything I'd said, everything I'd done, how I'd told him his dad was violent, how I'd made him believe it, how I'd used it to hurt his dad. And the therapist just looked at me with this sad, knowing look. The therapist, she explained it to me like I was a little kid. She said Leo had internalized my narrative, had believed his father was violent. And because of that, he was acting out that violence himself. He was lashing out because he was scared and angry. and confused by the mixed messages. He was literally punching walls because he was internalizing the idea of a violent parent. My lies had become his reality. I had to face Mark again, in court, for Leo's therapy. He looked different, not the gentle, apologetic Mark I knew. He was still quiet, but there was a hardness to him, a coldness. He had his own lawyer, and this lawyer wasn't playing nice. She laid out everything, every single lie, every manipulation, every time I had stopped Leo from seeing his dad. And Mark, he just sat there, listening, no emotion, just nothing. The judge, she listened to everything, to Leo's therapist, to Mark's lawyer, to my stammering excuses. And then she made her decision. Full custody to Mark, full physical and legal custody. She said that, based on the therapist's report and the evidence presented, it was clear I had weaponized vulnerabilities and engaged in parental alienation, creating a harmful environment for Leo. Parental alienation. Can you believe it? Like I was trying to turn my son against his father. I was just trying to protect him. I stood there, listening to her, and it was like the world just stopped. Full custody to Mark? The guy I had called violent. The guy I had tried to discredit. He got Leo, and I got nothing. Just visitation. Supervised for a while. Supervised. Like I was a danger to my own son. It was outrageous. Mark moved with Leo. To Phoenix, he packed up everything and just left. No forwarding address. Just a P.O. box for me to send child support checks to child support. From me to him, it was like a sick joke. He got a new job out there. And from what I heard, he met someone new. To someone genuinely loving, someone who apparently actually likes him. I saw a picture of them once, on Facebook, and he looked happy, genuinely happy. And Leo was smiling. A real smile, not the forced one I used to get. It twisted my gut. My reputation, the one I had so carefully crafted, was in tatters. Everyone who had believed me, who had sympathized with me, suddenly looked at me differently. The whispers started. She lied. She made it all up. My friends started drifting away. The ones who stuck around. They were polite, but you could feel the judgment radiating off them. My social life collapsed. Completely. I'd try to post something on Facebook, and no one would even comment. It was like I was invisible. My job, even things got weird there too. My boss, she started giving me the cold shoulder. I think word got around somehow. People started avoiding me. I even heard through the grapevine that they were worried about my judgment and integrity. Like I was some kind of criminal. My career, which I had worked so hard for, was just stuck. I wasn't fired, but I wasn't going anywhere either. I was blacklisted. Basically, so here I am, alone in this house that was supposed to be mine, with a son who blames me and barely talks to me, and a life that feels completely empty. I got what I wanted, in a way. I got rid of Mark. I got the house. But it feels like everything I built my identity around, everything I thought I was just stripped away. And you know what? I still don't get it. I still don't think it was my fault. I mean, sure, I said some things, but I was just trying to get out of a bad situation. I was just trying to protect myself. How was I supposed to know it would turn into this? How was I supposed to know Leo would take it all so literally? He should have known I was just trying to make things better. He should have understood. I don't care about Mark anymore. Not one bit. He got what he wanted. Too, I guess. His perfect little life in Phoenix. Good for him. And everyone else. All those people who judged me. Who turned their backs. They can all go to hell. I don't need them. I don't need anyone. I'm just, here. Alone. And it's all their fault. Really, all of them, not mine. Never mine.